Before we begin, I want you to be still for a moment. I want you to breathe. Because what I'm about to share with you is not just history. It is a mirror. It is a map. And if you have ears to hear, it is a mandate. There is a fire that has been burning in the hearts of our people since before the chains were ever forged, since before these shores were ever stained, since before a single tear fell into the Atlantic Ocean. And that fire has never gone out. Now, let us go back. Further than the cotton fields, further than the auction blocks, further than the ships, let us go all the way back to the very beginning of what it means to be moved by something greater than yourself. You see, there was a man named Noah, and Yah came to him in a world that had lost its way, a world drowning in its own corruption. And Yah said, build. Now understand something. There was no rain. There was no flood. There was nothing in the natural world to suggest that this man should spend 120 years constructing a vessel the size of a city block. His neighbors laughed. They mocked. And they questioned his sanity. But Noah picked up his hammer, because faith is not the absence of doubt. Faith is the decision to act in spite of it. Then there was Abraham, and Yah spoke to a man in the land of Haran and said, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. No address, no coordinates, no guarantee of safety. Just go. And Abraham went. He packed up everything he owned, everything he loved, and he walked towards a promise he could not see. That kind of faith, that moves mountains. That is the kind of faith that changes destinies. That is the kind of faith that we are going to need today. And then there was Moses, a man with a stutter, a man with the past, a man hiding in the desert. And Yah pulled out of obscurity and pointed towards the most powerful empire on the face of the earth. And Yah said, go tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Now I need you to understand the audacity of that moment. This was not a negotiation. This was not a petition. This was a declaration spoken by a man who couldn't even get his words out straight, aimed directly at the throne of Egypt. And when they finally walked out of bondage, the Red Sea did not part while they stood on the shore and prayed about it. The Bible says the waters did not move until Moses stretched out his hands by the word of Yah. Action, then miracle. And when Moses sent 12 spies into the promised land, 10 of them came back and said, we cannot go up against these people, for they are stronger than we. They saw giants and saw themselves as grasshoppers. Caleb silenced the crowd. He stood up and said, we are well able to overcome it. The same giants, the same land, two different spirits. One saw the obstacle, one saw the opportunity. Our people have always had Calebs among us. The question is, which spirit are you carrying today? And then there was David, a shepherd boy, stood in the valley and looked across at a giant named Goliath, who had an entire army trembling, 9 feet tall, full of armor, decades of battle experience. And David picked up 5 smooth stones and ran towards him. Not walked, ran. Because that is what courage looks like. Courage is not absence of fear. Courage is deciding that the calling is greater than the danger. And then there was Esther. When her people were facing extermination, when the decree had already been signed, when approaching the king uninvited meant certain death, she said these 4 words that have echoed through every generation since. If I perish, I perish. But I am going. She fasted, she organized, she prepared, she planned. And then she walked through that door and she saved a nation. Beloved, let us be the foundation on which everything else is built today. From the beginning of recorded history, those who changed the world were not those who waited for the perfect conditions. They were those who moved when Yah said move. They were those who built when Yah said build. They were those who stood when Yah said stand. Faith without works is dead. Our ancestors knew this, and soon you will see, so did ours. Now, I want to bring you forward, out of the ancient world, across the ocean, through centuries of unspeakable suffering, and into the story of a people who refused to be destroyed. You see, in 1807, Britain abolished the transatlantic slave trade. In 1808, America followed. But understand something. A law on paper does not heal the wound of the soul. Freedom declared is not the same as freedom delivered. And our people knew that. So they did not sit down and wait for a nation to make good on its promise. They organized, they planned, they moved. For example, Harriet Tubman was a woman who escaped bondage in 1849. Now, most people would have kept running north and never looked back. But Harriet went back. 19 times she went back into the belly of the beast. 300 souls she carried to freedom. No army behind her, no government funding her, no guarantee she would survive. Just faith, and a pistol and a promise she made to herself, that she would not rest while her people were still in chains. She once said, "I never ran my train off the track. I never lost a passenger." That is not luck. That is organization. That is strategy. That is what our people have always been capable of when we move together. When the Civil War ended and Reconstruction began, something extraordinary happened to this country. Something they do not teach enough in classroom. Something they would prefer we forget. Formerly enslaved black men who had been legally classified as property just years before, ran for Congress and won. Hiram Revels of Mississippi became the first black United States senator in 1870. Joseph Rainey of South Carolina became the first black member of the House of Representatives. In just 12 years, 2,000 black men held public office across the nation. They built schools, they built hotels, they paved roads. They created the very infrastructure of communities that had been denied everything. They did not wait to be invited to the room of democracy. They built their own door and walked through it. Then there was Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, a 35 block of black excellence they called Black Wall Street. Banks owned by black hands, hospitals staffed by black doctors, hotels, firms, newspapers, schools, all built by a people decided that if this nation would not invest in them, they would invest in themselves. They did not beg for a seat at someone else's table, they built their own table. They set it with fine linen. 6 million black Americans picked up everything they owned between 1910 and 1970 and moved north, west, away from the terror of Jim Crow, towards opportunity, towards dignity, towards the possibility of something better. And when they arrived in their new cities, they did not scatter, they gathered. They built churches that became community centers. They founded newspapers that became the voice of the voiceless. They organized unions that fought for wages for every worker. They created mutual aid societies that made sure no elder died without dignity, and no child went to school hungry. They carried their community with them wherever they went. And then came the fire of the 1950s and 60s. Rosa Parks did not sit simply because her feet were tired. Rosa Parks sat down because her soul was tired. She had been trained by the NAACP to resist. That was not spontaneous, that was organization. 381 days. That is how long the black community of Montgomery, Alabama boycotted those buses. 381 days of walking miles to work in the cold. 381 days of carpools and sore feet and determination. And at the end of those 381 days, the Supreme Court ruled that segregation on public buses was unconstitutional. They did not march to feel good, they marched to win. And then there was the March on Washington. August 28th, 1963. 250,000 people standing on the mall in the summer heat, demanding to be seen, demanding to be heard, demanding the full promise of democracy that had never fully included them. And the preacher from Atlanta stood before them and said, "I have a dream." They faced fire hoses, they faced billy clubs, they faced German shepherds trained to bite. They faced bombs on churches that killed little girls on Sunday morning. And they kept marching because they understood something that we must remember today. You cannot wait for the world to become just before you demand justice. Every generation, every single generation of our people has faced a moment when the odds were impossible, when the enemy was numerous, when the conditions said wait. And every single generation answered, "We will not wait." And now, I need you to look in the mirror, because the fire has been passed to us. Black unemployment in this country runs at nearly double the national average. The racial wealth gap means that for every dollar of wealth held by a white family in America, a black family holds 12 cents. 12 cents. Food prices are climbing, rent is climbing, the cost of simply surviving is climbing. And the ladders that previous generations used to climb out are being pulled up one by one. Black men are incarcerated at 5 times the rate of white men. And voting rights, the very rights that John Lewis bled on the Edmund Pettus Bridge to secure, are being chipped away state after state. Our history is being debated, diluted, and removed from the classrooms of our children. And the safety nets that were stitched together for the most vulnerable among us are being cut with a cold and indifferent hand. And in the middle of all this sits the black family. Mothers holding it together with both hands in the prayer. Fathers fighting systems designed to remove them from the home. Children growing up in a world that is moving faster than anyone prepared them for. And young people being shaped by algorithms when they need to be shaped by elders. This is the moment. This is our moment. But hear me, because we did not bring you here to leave you in the valley. We brought you here to remind you of what the Most High Yah has put in your hands. There are tools being developed right now, artificial intelligence, digital platforms, new economies, that are creating pathways to income and entrepreneurship that did not exist a generation ago. The question is not whether those tools exist. The question is whether our community will conform them, will mold them, will use them. You see, there is a wisdom our grandparents carried about growing food, about storing provisions, about building something that could sustain a family through hard times that we have drifted away from. It is time to come back to it. And community organizing, one of the most ancient and powerful tools by the grace of Yah our people have wielded. It still works. It worked when Harriet Tubman went back into Maryland. It worked when they walked in Montgomery. It worked when they sat at those lunch counters. And it still works today. Noah did not wait for the rain to start before he picked up his hammer. Abraham did not wait for a map before he started walking. Moses did not wait for his stutter to heal before he stood before Pharaoh. Harriet did not wait for safer conditions before she went back south. Rosa did not wait for a better day to stay in her seat. And we, this community, this generation, this people cannot afford to wait any longer. The ark needs to be built. The journey needs to begin. The giant needs to be faced, and the fire that survived the Middle Passage, that survived the auction block, that survived Jim Crow, redlining, and mass incarceration, and every system designed to extinguish it. That fire is still burning in you, in this room right now. So today, we do not gather merely to be informed. We gather to be activated. We gather to be equipped. We gather to add our chapter to the longest and greatest story of resilience this world has ever witnessed. The fire never died. It was passed to you. And the question is, what will you do with it?